You feel pain and you reach for something. A pill. A tablet. A painkiller. Something to make it stop in the next 20 minutes. But for 300,000 years, there was nothing to reach for. No pharmacy down the street. No doctor to call. No bottle of anything in a cabinet. So what did people actually do? Most people assume ancient humans were in constant agony. Broken bones left untreated. Infections that spread. Pain that just lived inside you until you died. That assumption is wrong. And the evidence has been sitting in their bones for thousands of years waiting for someone to look closely enough. In 1995, archaeologists excavating a cave in northern Iraq uncovered a 60,000-year-old Neanderthal skeleton. The man had a withered right arm. Several fingers missing. A healed wound around his left eye socket. He was likely blind on one side. He could not hunt. He could not gather food on his own. Yet he lived to his mid-40s. In a world with no medicine, no hospitals, no painkillers of any kind, someone kept this man alive for decades. Someone fed him. Sat with him. Managed whatever pain he carried every single day. That tells you something important. Pain was not a private problem. It never was. But how did they actually manage the pain itself? The answer was growing everywhere around them. In 2012, researchers analyzed plant remains found alongside 800,000-year-old human fossils in Spain. They found yarrow, groundsel, and ephedra carefully stored near the bones. None of these were food plants. All of them contain natural compounds still used in pain relief today. Yarrow reduces inflammation. Ephedra opens airways and dulls pain signals. Groundsel was used across multiple ancient cultures as a sedative. These weren't random plants picked by accident. Someone knew what they were doing. Willow bark, the original source of aspirin, shows up in ancient sites across Europe, Africa, and Asia with no connection between the groups that used it. Completely separate civilizations on different continents figured out the same thing independently. They experimented. They observed. They passed the knowledge down to their children and their children's children for thousands of generations. But plants were only part of the answer. The bigger part was something that most modern people almost never use when they are hurting. Each other. When someone in a hunter-gatherer group was in pain, the entire camp noticed. Not because there was a system. Not because someone told them to. Because that is what humans do when they live close enough to actually see each other. People sat together. They touched. They groomed each other the way you see primates do, running fingers through hair, maintaining physical contact for hours at a time. In 2016, researchers at Oxford University published a study on social touch. They found that physical contact between people triggers the same neural pathways as morphine. It releases endorphins. It actively reduces the brain's perception of pain signals. It lowers cortisol and calms the nervous system at a biological level. For ancient humans, community was not a comfort. It was a painkiller that actually worked. So let's reconstruct what a day of pain actually looked like. You wake up with an injury. Maybe from a hunt 2 days ago. A twisted ankle. A deep bruise. Something that makes every movement slow. You don't lie alone in a room. You move toward the fire where everyone else already is. Someone hands you food. Someone sits close. Physical proximity is normal. Expected. No one thinks twice about it. By mid-morning the camp has spread out. Some people have gone to gather plants. Others are making tools or weaving. But you stay. And someone stays with you. Not out of obligation. Because leaving an injured person alone simply wasn't something that happened. By afternoon the group returns. Food is shared. People talk. Someone tells a story about a hunt that went wrong and ended well. Someone else laughs about something that happened near the river. And something shifts. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years recording conversations among the Juhoansi people in Botswana. She found that at night, around the fire, 81% of all conversation shifted to stories. Not plants. Not complaints. Stories. Stories about ancestors who survived impossible things. About wounds that healed when everyone said they wouldn't. About loss that eventually lifted. About people who came back from the edge of death and lived for years afterward. Researchers now know that storytelling physically changes how the brain processes pain. It redirects attention. It activates regions associated with meaning and connection rather than threat and suffering. It doesn't make the pain disappear. It makes it matter less. Ancient humans didn't have therapy. They had fire. And voices. And each other in the dark. There was one more thing they did that almost no modern person does when they are in pain. They kept moving. Not fast. Not hard. Just continuously. In 2017, researchers studied chronic pain rates among the Hadza people in Tanzania, one of the last fully intact hunter-gatherer communities on Earth. They found almost no chronic pain, no recurring back problems, no widespread joint disease. Despite no doctors, no anti-inflammatories, no physiotherapy of any kind. Their bodies moved the way human bodies were built to move. Not in a gym for 45 minutes and then sitting for the rest of the day. Just constant low-level movement through living. Walking, crouching, climbing, carrying, squatting, reaching. The average modern person sits for 10 hours a day. Chronic pain now affects 1 in 5 people in the Western world. Back pain alone is the leading cause of disability globally. The Hadza don't have a word for it. Then about 10,000 years ago everything changed. Farming arrived. And with farming came a completely new kind of pain. Not the sudden sharp pain of a hunt or a fall. Something worse. The same motion. Every single day. Plowing. Grinding. Harvesting. Planting. The same joints under the same load in the same direction for hours every day for an entire lifetime. Archaeologists can read it in the bones of early farmers. Severe spinal arthritis in people who died in their 30s. Knee deterioration. Shoulder damage from years of grinding grain against stone. Early farmers were shorter than their ancestors. Their teeth were worse. Their bones were weaker. And their pain was constant in a way that hunter-gatherer pain almost never was. Because the harvest didn't stop. There was no day where the group decided to rest. No fire to sit around in the afternoon. No stories until the work was done. And the work was never done. Today you have the most advanced medicine in human history. Painkillers that work in 20 minutes. Surgeries that reconstruct joints destroyed by decades of sitting. Antidepressants for the pain that has no physical source. Therapists trained to help you process the suffering that pills can't reach. And yet chronic pain affects more people right now than at any other point in recorded history. 1 in 5 adults in the Western world. Rising every decade. Your ancestors had none of what you have. No pharmacy. No surgery. No prescription. No diagnosis with a name. But they had the fire. The plants they spent generations learning to use. The hands of people who sat with them without being asked. The stories told in the dark that made suffering feel like something that could be survived. The bodies that moved the way bodies were built to move. They didn't take pain to a private room and wait alone for it to pass. They brought it outside. They named it in front of other people. They let the group carry some of the weight. We have everything they didn't have. And we are in more pain than they ever were.